Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that celebrates the lost art of the mixtape. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. Joining me for tonight's collaboration is the underrated rock book and the underrated rock book 2 author, Jim Santora. Jim, thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, Brian, it's always a pleasure. I always seem to be on your shows, so it's a wonderful thing. So always looking forward to it. Always appreciate you bringing me on, and always enjoy talking music with you. So glad to be here.
Likewise. So let's get down to it. Jim, what does the word mixtape mean to you?
Well, it's been a real long time since I've made any kind of a mixtape or even a CD version of a mixtape. But going back to my high school days, I was really big on cassettes. And my earliest parts of maybe a mixtape is going back and listening to the radio and waiting for those particular songs to come on the radio and hit record and kind of have some sort of loose mixtape. But, when you got to the point where you had like the dual tape decks where you kind of sit there, or if you still had vinyl, it would record everything. And I was pretty big on putting those kind of tapes together. A lot of them always were the rock, especially with like a lot of the 80s rock, hard rock, metal, always had that kind of stuff going on. But probably up until the 90s, until I really started getting into CDs. But even then, I still remember, even when I was a mobile disc jockey, I used to give away CDs and used to make mixtapes based on that. A lot of different hits, whether it was pop hits, rock hits, whatever it was. And I would just give those away, though I'm sure that was definitely illegal at the time. Luckily, nobody dined me out at the time, but I used to love making the mixtapes. I always enjoyed that.
Well, Jim, you get to go down that road once again. So for the folks listening tonight, Jim and I will be curating a mixtape of 80s hard rock tunes. I, for one, am extremely excited to go down this rabbit hole, as this era is truly one of my favorites. Right now, I have a bank of no less than 35 songs just waiting to go. And it's going to be damn near impossible for me to not feel an extreme amount of guilt and shame for the overwhelming number of incredible songs that probably won't make the cut tonight. Jim, what were you looking for in the songs that you've brought to the table in your bank of tunes this evening?
Well, the thing I was looking at, and a lot of times, back in the day when I was cruising around in a 1977 Buick LeSabre with a tape deck that was actually an 8-track deck, but it was old school adapter that would go in and it stuck out. It might have been about 5 feet long, but it had one spot where you could put the cassette in. But it was a lot of times just cruising around with my friends or my brother or whatever. And so the songs didn't have to be always super popular, but it had to be good music to cruise around to, and just kind of find the different mixtapes, to kind of, back then trying to impress the girls or something that were hanging around. You didn't want to have anything too cheesy for them. But when you're cruising down the road and all of a sudden the right song comes on in that mixtape, and all of a sudden the foot goes to the pedal just a little bit more. And my tastes were all over the place during this time period. So the mixtapes that I would have put together would have been definitely all over the place, but definitely a lot of bands people would know for that time period that I was into, and then my friends as well.
As I mentioned earlier, tonight, Jim and I will be curating an 80s hard rock mixtape, and we're going to use that old cassette deck approach, meaning our mixtape will be broken up into 2 sides, side A and side B. Jim, as the special guest tonight, will begin side A with his first song choice, and then I'll add a song that I feel best follows his choice up. We'll then flip-flop choosing songs until we've mapped out 10 songs for side A. We'll then give our mixtape a proverbial flip, and we'll map out side B, only this time I'll kick things off and Jim will choose second. Our overall goal for tonight is to craft the best 80s hard rock mixtape possible with only 20 songs. At the end of the show, you could take our conversation to the next level by visiting the 80s Hard Rock page at myweeklymixtape.com and giving our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. Finally, if you like what you're hearing on the show, please consider becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. Jim, before I turn it over to you to reveal your track one, some of the fellow mixtapers who follow us at My Weekly Mixtape on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok have chimed in with their ideal opening tracks for tonight. Amy Borchin chimed in with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts' I Love Rock and Roll. Eric Chale chimed in with Dio's Holy Diver. Scott Van Sickle chimed in with Kiss's Creatures of the Night. Banger Timo chimed in with Husker Du's New Day Rising. Ben from the Too Vague podcast chimed in with Van Halen's Hot for Teacher. Kuya Ozzy chimed in with Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me. Our friends at the Ridiculous Rock Record Reviews chimed in with Whitesnake's Slide It In. And several mixtapers chimed in with both Van Halen and Motley Crue songs. So we've got some great food for thought tonight. Jim, with that, I've officially pressed the record button on our mixtape, and the floor is yours. So why don't you dive into the song you chose to kick off side A?
All right. Well, first of all, with those selections that those people have made, the Husker Du one, though not technically hard rock, I totally love that song, New Day Rising. But aside from that, we got to kind of refocus here. So we hit record. And the first song I'm going to go with is actually going to be Metallica. And the song is For Whom the Bell Tolls. And just from the opening alone, you get that full on in your face sound. When I'm looking at this mixtape, I want to just throw it down right out the gate. And that is a song, in my opinion, that totally opens up the gates for what's going to be an awesome mixtape.
Absolutely love it. I want to give a shout out to my friend Tim from the 20 Tim Minutes podcast, who also chimed in with For Whom the Bell Tolls. Great song. As a bass player, I want to rock that opening, man.
Yes.
I know it's the drums and the guitar, but that bass line,
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so much fun to play. It gets the hair on your arm standing up. Now, I normally consider Metallica to be more of the thrash metal, but For Whom the Bell Tolls does take on that hard rock vibe. So I have no problem including them in this hard rock discussion. I love, love, love that pick.
Yeah, it's one of those bands. And again, the one thing I remember from even the early Metallica, even though being more to thrash metal, at least when I was listening to the radio, those songs were getting airplay from that Ride the Lightning album, Fade to Black, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
So even though they were kind of more thrash metal, they still had a little bit of a radio-ish. But that was definitely a throwdown song that can kick off any mixtape.
Well, I think I have the perfect answer for track 2 then. Because obviously anybody that's in our age range remembers the infamous tour that featured Faith No More, Metallica, and my track 2 pick, Guns N' Roses. And I am going to go off 1987's Appetite for Destruction, and I'm going to go with the perfect number 2 song because it's track 2 on Appetite, as well as Guns N' Roses' opening track for the Not in This Lifetime tour. I am going with It's So Easy. This song is hard rock, it's punk, it's metal, it's everything I love about music. It's everything I love about Guns N' Roses. It's sleazy, it's angry, it's aggressive, it's everything that rock and roll is meant to be. And I'll be perfectly honest, if It's So Easy kicked off Appetite for Destruction, I would love it just the same as much as Welcome to the Jungle is the obvious open and the song that everybody probably would think for 80s hard rock. It's So Easy. It's a little deeper, but for any Guns N' Roses fan, there's no denying it. Plus, again, that bass line, opening it up. I'm a bass player. It resonates. So track 2, Guns N' Roses, It's So Easy.
Well, I tell you, I do love that song. I will say that while I think that album tends to get a little overplayed these days with the hits, but that is one song that has always stayed solid for all this time. I perfectly agree. That's the perfect second song to get on this mixtape.
All right. Well, you're back up. So what are you putting in for track 3?
Well, now we've made it really a challenge. The list that I have kind of goes all over the place. So it's going to be a tough one here to kind of follow up. Well, we got 2 total bangers to start this off. I am going to go with Ronnie James Dio, Rainbow in the Dark.
Nice.
And just that opening guitar line. And then you got a little bit of that synth work that was in the beginning. And then just Ronnie's vocals. It's like that song, absolutely rocks. It's probably the first time I really was introduced to Ronnie James Dio. And I mean, that song still slams when I hear it today. So I'm sure I had it on a mixtape somewhere in my youth. And I'm glad it's on a mixtape today. So that's our third track here on this mixtape. It's a great song.
Oh my God, this tape slays already. I'm loving where we're going so far. This is, I mean, come on. You got to raise the metal horns for that one. I love Dio. Obviously, we mentioned that Eric Chale chimed in with Dio. Holy Diver's another great one. I could go
Yes.
with Black Sabbath's Heaven or Hell, which is from 1980. That
Yep.
still fits in. Dio really, man, he nailed it in the 80s. I
Yes.
loved his stuff with Rainbow. But in the 80s, he really took it to the next level with his solo outings as well as the stuff he did with Sabbath. And I
Yep.
can't fathom an 80s hard rock playlist without it. So I absolutely love the pick. But now it's getting hard because we've got Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Dio. How are we going to follow that up?
Yep. What do you got for us?
Oh, I'm scrolling up and down my list right here. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to go a little glam, but still the heaviest of glam. And I'm going to go from 1987's Girls, Girls, Girls. I'm going to go track 4, Motley Crue, Wild Side.
Okay.
Probably Mick Mars's greatest riff ever. The song absolutely slams. It's heavy, it's aggressive. It's everything I love about Motley Crue. And I know Eric, Time to Get Ill, chimed in with Shout at the Devil. I also want to give a shout out to my friend Jason Whistle at the It's Not That Bad podcast because he chimed in with Wild Side as well. Man, this is the best thing, all the best things about Motley Crue in one song. Track 4,
Yes.
Motley Crue, Wild Side.
Yeah, Motley Crue. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Wild Side. I will agree on that. And speaking of Mick Mars, I just want to say that, you don't realize how much that band owes Mick Mars for just the creative genius and as under a radar guitarist as can be for some of the stuff that he's put together. If you had any other guitarist in that band, I don't think Motley Crue is the same. Wild Side definitely rocks. Yeah, and so far I'm really enjoying this mixtape right now where we're not even halfway into side one. But man, you're making it tough here with as we keep throwing song after song here. So I am gonna go. So we're now track number 5, right?
Yeah.
So uh where do you go from you just put together 4 excellent songs. So let's see. I'm gonna go number 5. And this is more for the guitars than I'm trying to keep it more with the guitars and where this thing's headed here on side one. And I'm going to go back to a band not as popular as the first 4 artists that were here, but I'm going to go with the band Loudness from Japan with Crazy Nights.
Nice.
Akira Takasaki, who's a guitarist for that band. In fact, going back to Motley Crue, the first concert I ever went to was Motley Crue and the Theater of Pain tour, and Loudness was the opening act. So that was the first time I actually got to experience them and heard that album and the song Crazy Nights just alone. Like they just were a phenomenal guitar metal band. And that song absolutely just slays with just a guitar work alone. I think it fits right after Wild Side. Wild Side kind of has its thing. And then when it kind of fades out, I could see this song just kind of kicking the doors in again and keeping this tape alive.
That it certainly is. And speaking about staying alive, Loudness, their first album came out in the early 80s. I want to say it was 81.
Yeah.
And they're still going strong. They put out an album back in 2021.
Yes.
They're still out there putting out music, and they put out a ton. They haven't slowed down.
Yes. They are a band that is, and it was amazing when I first heard them. I didn't know who they, obviously I didn't know who they were, but then to go back and listen to their earlier stuff, and they were kind of a different band. When it got to the States, they kind of got more within what the US metal sound was like. But prior to that, they were like, in some songs, they were almost kind of proggish in their delivery. And I remember when they first came to the States, they were compared to like the combination of like Van Halen and Deep Purple kind of stuff, just in the tones and stuff like that. So, but yeah, awesome song, and glad to have it as number 5.
Well, I'm going to move on to number 6 here. And now, following that one up, I feel like I have a little bit more of a liberty to try something different. And I'm going to go with a band that's a household name, but a song that maybe necessarily isn't. And I'm going to go from 1989's Pump. I'm going to go Aerosmith, but I'm going to go with Voodoo Medicine Man,
Oh,
one of the non singles from the album. Now, Aerosmith fans will know that this song was also on the 1990s live release, A Little South of Sanity, an incredible version on that as well. So, to me, in the Aerosmith universe, it might not be a deep pick, but when you look at it against the hits of Lovin' an Elevator, Janie's Got a Gun, What It Takes, The Other Side, this song falls off the radar, and it shouldn't. So, in underrated rock book fashion, Jim, I have to say this is easily Aerosmith's most underrated song that
yeah.
should have been a hit, but I guess Steven Tyler singing about masturbating with a noose is probably a reason why they didn't release it as a single. But musically, it's one of those Joe Perry riffs that's just so funky and heavy at the same time. It's completely underrated. So my track 6, going a little deeper here.
Yeah.
Aerosmith, Voodoo Medicine Man.
That is a very interesting choice. An interesting choice was, and I know that we're not putting the same artist in here, but it's interesting to note that in my 20 songs, that I did have a song from the same album.
Really?
Yes, and I was going to select "Fine" at some
Okay.
point, but not going to disagree with the song that you have here. I mean, that's a solid album, and that's a good choice. But yeah, definitely something that kind of, I've kind of put a song that's kind of a little bit under the radar. Now we've kind of, and this is what I like about the mixtape, because the variety of what you could do. We could sit there and slam out all the popular bands, but now we're kind of going, the deeper cuts, the bands not so, some of the bands that aren't so great, or not, I shouldn't say great to us, maybe not great to others, right? So that gets us to number 7 on this side. So interesting choice of where I go as far as a direction, because I think we've kind of gone, we had some heavy stuff and we're kind of sliding, because I want to say the Voodoo Medicine was a little more funky, right? So I think this is about a time where, and of course, I'm going to do this because I probably did this in later mixtapes in my lifetime. I'm going to throw a little King's X in this mixtape, and I'm going to go with the song Summerland.
Nice.
I'm going to go with that little bit of Ty Tabor guitar there at the open song. The Doug Pinnick vocals, you can't go wrong there. They kind of have that element. It's a hard rock song, but it kind of has kind of that. Is it a little bit psychedelic? Is it a little bit progressive? It's got a nice little groove to it. And I think it transition wise, it kind of gets us into another part of where this mixtape's going to go. And, I think that was always a solid song from that band, and one of their more popular tracks as well. But I think it fits very easy as far as how we're going along here in this mixtape. So track number 7 will be King's X and Summerland.
I have to ask, man, how is it possible in this universe that King's X isn't a household name?
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of boggles the mind. A band like King's X, no matter what they did, they always ended up not being successful. They're a band that played at Woodstock.
Mm-hmm.
All the popular bands that were at Woodstock 94, and, they played, and a lot of people said that was one of the best performances of that Woodstock. And, they thought for sure that they were going to get a lot of big, because it actually got played on MTV for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing. And it's just, they just have a whole chronicle of history of just having every opportunity, and just for whatever reason. And it's like somebody once told me, King's X, you either get it or you don't. And there's, for whatever reason, a lot of people that didn't get it, or they're finding out about them now and didn't realize what they were 30 something years ago.
I couldn't agree more. And I truly wish more people got it, because they're an incredible band.
Yep.
But now, following that up, I actually think I know what I'm going to go with, because We had Voodoo Medicine Man, which is, I don't want to say it's a funky song, but the riff's got a little bit of a funky vibe to it. King's X has a little bit of a prog feel. I wouldn't say funky, but there's something going on
Right.
with the bass there that I could say would lean towards funk.
They are the groove machine. So
Yeah, so I'm going to stick with that groove, and I'm going to go with something I think is kind of funky and definitely hard rock, but not one of the heavier songs on the album. And I'm going to go with 1989's The Real Thing. And I'm going to
Mhm.
go with Faith No More, but I'm not going to go with Epic here. I'm going to go with Falling to Pieces,
Ooh.
because Falling to Pieces has a little bit more of the musicality that would fit in with a King's X and that Voodoo Medicine Man song that we were talking about. It's still funky, but it's a little more melodic, and you get a little bit more of Mike Patton's vocals in this song. He sings a little bit more in this one than the rapping in Epic, which
Right.
might lean a little too heavy into rap rock, which I don't see in this hard rock playlist so far. So my track 8 is Faith No More, Falling to Pieces.
Well, listen. That's probably one of my favorite Faith No More songs. That's a really good song. That album is tremendous, by the way. I mean, I still remember when they had the album before that with We Care a Lot. Because I remember being in
Oh, yeah.
and really being introduced to that band by that album. But they follow that up with The Real Thing, and it's great stuff. And that Fall to Pieces song is great. Which really kind of, I'm looking at my list right now, and it's really putting me in quite a predicament right now as to how I follow that. So I guess I'll go, none of these bands are really considered proggy, though there's stuff like maybe you could kind of see I shouldn't even say proggy as much as I would say, the musicianship of all these bands are particularly very, very solid, especially these last couple tracks. Musically, we can all sit there and say, man, there's some great feelings to all these songs that are out there. So I'm going to go back to 1982. The band Rush from the album Singles, and I'm going to go with the Analog Kid, which is the
Ooh.
second song after Subdivisions from that album. That is a song where I just like, I mean, again, we've been talking a lot about the bass players. Well, mostly you've been talking about bass players, but the Geddy Lee bass lines in that song are tremendous. It's also a song because that's a song that, that's a song where they really kind of get a little more heavier in some keyboard stuff.
Mhm.
But Alex Lifeson still shines on it as the guitarist, and of course Neil Peart's amazing. And it's a quicker song, so I think we've kind of gotten into some songs where a little bit funkier, not really a faster, not really a fast song per se. Where the Analog Kid kind of comes back, and even Summerland's not really considered a fast song. They're kind of a little bit slower or deliberate, but Analog Kid kind of picks up the pace as far as this mixtape goes. So I think we've kind of went heavy, kind of slid down into this other reservoir of really good songs, but kind of entered a funk groovy type portion. And now, Analog Kid kind of gets us into a little bit more of a faster pace. So track number 9, Rush, Analog Kid.
All right. Man. Well, you scooped me on Rush because I had Tom Sawyer from Moving
Oh,
Pictures
okay.
ready, just
Yeah.
waiting for the right time. As long as Rush made this playlist,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Couple
really.
requirements for me would have been back, especially back in the day when I'm doing these, there would have to be a Rush something on there. So, and a King's X. So far I've gotten them both on side one. So, that's good for me.
All right. Well, now I got to close the side out. And you know what? We opened with such a monster song. I want to close with a monster song for this side because this is the end of the side. So we want to make a statement. So I know
Mhm.
you picked the speed up a little bit, but I want to make people headbang so slowly
Oh,
that it's
okay.
like a slow motion. I want fists pumping,
Yeah.
and then I want it to build into that manic close. So
Mhm.
I am going to go back to 1981, and I'm going to go with the title track from AC/DC's For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. The ultimate closing rock anthem. It should close the entire tape, but I don't get to pick track 10 on side B. That's your choice. So
Okay.
I am closing side 1 in an epic fashion. with one of my favorite rock songs of all time. For those about to rock, we salute you.
That is a tremendous song, and I could see what you might do here with this mixtape. Is that now that that song is now the end of side one? Remember they used to have the tapes. I think Memorex used to have the tapes with the stickers with the numbers. So I
Mm-hmm.
could see you I could see you switching this as a number two and a number one side, just so you can get ACDC on there. So, see what you're doing here, Brian. It's not going to work. So
Yeah.
nice try, nice try. But no, it is a great song. I mean, first of all, what's not to love about ACDC, right? We could have put any ACDC song in here to close this out, and I think it would have fit in. But For Those About the Rock is a tremendous song. That's probably another one that's probably high on my list of ACDC songs. So definitely a perfect song to close the side.
Well, with that, mixtapers, we've concluded side A of our 80s hard rock mixtape, which consists of Metallica, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Guns N' Roses, It's So Easy, Dio, Rainbow in the Dark, Motley Crue's Wild Side, Loudness, Crazy Nights, Aerosmith, Voodoo Medicine Man, King's X, Summerland, Faith No More, Falling to Pieces, Rush, The Analog Kid, and AC/DC's For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. Visit myweeklymixtape.com to hear all of the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, before we flip our proverbial mixtape over to side B, Jim, why don't you tell listeners a little bit more about the underrated rock book 2?
All right. Well, in October of 2022, I released my second book, The Underrated Rock Book 2, 200 More Overlooked Albums. This book, if you're familiar with book number one, basically picks up where the original Underrated Rock Book left off. 200 artists, 200 albums, and it covers the whole gamut of all things rock. So we don't leave any stone unturned. So if you like hard rock, it's there. If you like southern rock, it's there. New wave, punk, even some more into some metal or metalcore bands, alternative rock. It covers everything. So if you're a fan of rock music in general, all different genres and styles, the Underrated Rock Book 2 is for you. And also, if you're not familiar with original Underrated Rock Book, you can check out both books. And actually, they're kind of interchangeable. So while I have two books, Underrated Rock Book 2, I know Brian had made a joke earlier today, but about whether the other one was Underrated Rock Book 1. But the two, there's a reason why the Underrated Rock Book 2 is TOO and number 2, because they really could be interchangeable. You
Mm-hmm.
can read Underrated Rock Book 2 first and then go back to the original book, and you're not really losing anything. We don't really rank anything 1 to 200, and this one's not 201 to 400. So you can go in and find your favorite artist or discover new ones, and it's a good conversation piece that you can share with your friends or any other music lovers that you have, that in your family and so on. For more information, you can check out underratedrockbook.com. The book is available on Amazon in paperback, also in Kindle. And then there's also other sites like Barnes and Noble, where you can get it in the ebook variety. And also, if you go to the website, there's other places you can pick it up. Smashwords is one of the locations as well, if you want to get the ebook as opposed to the paperback. And if you like what or if you want to comment about it, you can always send information to me at contact@underratedrockbook.com. Always love to hear what people think of the book. And also, if you have suggestions for a Underrated Rock Book 3, which I'm not saying is going to happen or not, but you never know. So we'll just kind of leave it at that.
So, having read both books, I could definitely say for the rock fan in your life, whether it's you or somebody in your family, this is definitely, both books are worth picking up. Now we've flipped over side 2 and I'm hitting record and I get to run with track 1 tonight. And I'm actually going to double dip for the first time on my weekly mixtape. And I know we're really early in the show. It just so happens that a song that I picked on episode 1, which was the greatest opening guitar riffs, also fits perfectly in 80s hard rock. And I think there's no denying when I talk about this song, the logic behind including it and the logic of kicking off a side with it, because it is the opening track on 1998's Vivid. I'm going with Living Color, Cult of Personality. Vernon Reid, using the word again, is the most underrated guitarist of that decade, and maybe one of the most underrated guitarists of all time. How he is not included in top guitarist conversations just blows my mind. He is an absolute living legend. The riff is such a monster. It crushes you in 2023 as much as it did in 1988. So my track one, Living Color, Cult of Personality.
Yeah, I mean that is a for a band. Many may consider Living Color a one-hit wonder, and if so, I mean, give or take. But if anybody was to know this band, that's the song they know, and that
Yes.
song is such a iconic song, and it's just a blast. That whole Vernon Reed, Corey Glover, like the vocals and stuff, like it's just so impressive. I remember that came out in college, and I remember the interesting thing about that song was that it got played in the college radio charts for months and months before it really kind of took off on MTV, and then kind of became a more of a massive song. But it really took a long time for it to get the push. But once it got the push, it's become a song that people know. As soon as you hear that opening guitar riff, or even the opening with the talking parts there at the beginning, right?
Mhm.
And then the guitar parts, like people already identify what song that is. But yeah, tremendous song to start us on side two, which really puts me in a predicament of what I'm going to go with here, because I don't know. I don't know. Definitely want to find something that fits. So I think I'm going to go with a song from 1987 from a band called The Cult. The album was Electric, and I'm going to go with Love Removal Machine. I'm looking at it from following a song like Cult of Personality. I'm looking for something that still follows that hard rock tradition, but I don't want to get too glammy, and I obviously don't want to get too metallic, though Living Color kind of rides that line as far as the heaviness goes. So the next best thing is to add a band like the Cult and Love Removal Machine. I think it's kind of got that AC/DC stomp, which is where they were kind of headed during that time after what they did with the Love album, which was more obviously they were a new wave band, and then all of a sudden they went full on rock, which I think a great album. This is a great song. Billy Duffy's another very under the radar guitarist that definitely deserves more credit than he gets sometimes for his guitar work. But yeah, track number two, side two, Love Removal Machine from the Colts.
I'm getting scooped again. Although I had a different Cult song chosen, I went off of 89 Sonic Temple and I had Firewoman ready to
Ah, yeah.
go. But Love Removal Machine is absolutely perfect. I love that song, and I actually know what I'm going to follow that up with. I'm going to go all the way back to 1980, and I'm going to follow this up with the opening track from Women and Children First, and I'm going with Van Halen and The Cradle Will Rock.
Mm,
I mean, Love Removal Machine has this vibe. Cult of
yes.
Personality has this vibe.
Yep.
Side two, we're going with the swagger, the hard rock
Yeah.
swagger, and the Cradle Will Rock has it just in droves. So,
Yes.
and the Cradle Will Rock. I do want to give a shout out to Gomez from Playlist Wars, and obviously the Sleevey G Show. He chimed in with Hot for Teacher, but I'm going with "And the Cradle Will Rock" because with these songs before it, it just seems to fit perfectly.
Yeah. I actually had Van Halen on my list, but it was probably the wrong type of mixtape for the song I was picking. I was actually going to go with Summer Nights was my
Ooh,
selection.
5150.
But I think it was really depending on the theme of where this was going. I think if we did this mixtape in July, we might have a different altogether theme.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I was always impressed by the 5150 album. That was always my favorite track from that album, and probably one of my favorite Van Halen tracks. I think it's just impressive. But the Cradle of Rock is definitely uh, turning in side two, starting to really slam pretty hard with the rock. This is definitely something I could see cruising down the road with. So, with that, I got to find a song that's kind of in that same vein as what we're already doing here. And I'm going to go with a band from Canada. We've already done Rush for side one. So we're going to go with another Canadian band here. I'm going to go with Triumph
Hmm.
from the album Never Surrender. and the song is called When the Lights Go Down. This song really goes into like what it's like to be on the stage, right? And the best part of this song is when we get into the Rick Emmett guitar solo. He's doing a lot of stuff with wah wah pedals and stuff like that. And there's this stuff like in the middle of this song, he goes in there and it's like wah 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 wah. I'm like, yeah, like this is one of those songs where that happens, and then the vocals kick back in. It's just one of those songs you want to just turn up the volume on. I think it fits perfectly behind Van Halen in this mixtape. So track number 4, right? If I do my math correctly.
That is correct.
Triumph, When the Lights Go Down.
Another underrated group. You're picking between that and Loudness. Obviously, it's not just a clever name, sir. You you know how to live with the underrated, and I love it. Triumph is definitely one of those bands that I feel didn't get their just due.
Yeah, it's interesting to find out they have a documentary that's out right now. It's called Rock and Roll Machine. I just checked it out a couple weeks ago. It's very interesting that they were a fairly popular band, but they were so much a popular under the radar band that you could be. Like, they played like the M3 Festival. They did all these different things. They had popular albums, but I don't think they were ever considered like a top tier band, though they did everything that all the top tier bands did in the 80s. They kind of came in the 70s, but then the 80s, they had like a couple stellar records. But I remember this song when I first heard it, I was like, oh man, this song just kicks everybody's ass. I mean, it's just a phenomenal tune. So I'm glad I got on the mixtape.
Well, coming out of that, I actually have a tough one. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit and go slightly heavier, but I'm going to keep a little bit of that swagger going.
Okay.
Side 1 was the Might. And I feel like side 2 is still got some heft, but it's got a little bit more. And I said it again, swagger. Yep. And I'm going to go all the way up to 1988. Mm-hmm. My favorite song from the band, even though I have several that are like right there, right underneath it, but this one just edges it out. It was actually my introduction to this band, and I was able to go backwards and forwards with them throughout their career from this song. And it's 1988's Reach for the Sky, and I'm going with Rat, Way Cool Jr. Absolutely love that song. It's bluesy. It's got a sick groove. The guitar riff is undeniable. And it's one of the most memorable 80s hard rock tunes just from the fact the video, the horns, everything just worked. And I know for Rat fans, it might be a little too overproduced when you add in the horns and everything else, but damn, did it blow my mind when I heard it. And I would not be a Rat fan today if it wasn't for the song. So my track 5 is Rat's Way Cool Jr.
I'm hearing the shuffle in the song with the little bit guitar that but yet, you can hum. That's a kind of song that you can listen to it and you can hum along to that song. And that's a really cool choice. I did have a Rat song in my list. I had Slip of the Lip.
Nice.
But we're kind of going in a different direction. So it wasn't going to make the list here, unfortunately. But great choice. Way Cool Jr. is, and I think sometimes that song is, obviously the round and rounds and stuff obviously would have gotten on another day their choice. But Way Cool Jr. is definitely, funny thing part, Way Cool Jr. could have fit on side 1 too. Yeah. But we're going a different direction here. And I get the little bit of it's almost a little swagger. We're almost getting a little cocky here with side 2.
Definitely.
With what we got.
Well, I will say one thing, Jim.
Yes.
Round and Round would go perfect on your hard rock summer songs along with Van Halen's Summer Nights that you talked about earlier.
It would. We'll revisit that in July or something.
It sounds like a plan, man.
There
Track 6, what do you got?
Yeah, so track 6, man, we're really rolling down through the songs here. You know what? I've noticed? So we don't have a ballad.
Not yet.
We don't have anything to impress the ladies. When we're going through this mixtape, especially we were cruising around. Some of the girls, at least, we were cruising around, like they might not like all the other stuff we're doing. They like the ballads, you know what I mean? Because it's got that little bit of a pop edge there. I'm going to go with Dokken from the Tooth and Nail album. And I'm going to go with Alone Again.
Yes.
Listen, this is a song that it's a killer ballad. It may not have been like a top 40 type song, but while it's a ballad, it still carries enough weight to make it a heavy rock song. You know, the Dokken vocals, the George Lynch guitar, especially the guitar solo that he does in this song is just killer. And I think, we've gotten to this point where it's like, we're just kind of smashing and breaking windows with everything. And like, I think this is about the point in this mixtape where we could go in and kind of, hey, you know what? Now's the time to kind of slow it down a little bit. We're cruising by. I can see right now, I'm rolling into Burger King, and there's a couple girls hanging in the car. Yeah, just in time for the Dokken song to play and then just kind of slide in into the parking lot there. But yeah, I was always a big Dokken fan. So I knew I had to pick my place here as far as where I was going to put that song. And I think I've achieved my success there in getting it on side two.
Yeah, it really works. That's a fantastic ballad. It's one of the more here I say it again, underrated power ballads of the 80s because it doesn't get the limelight when you think about the Bon Jovi ballads, the Poison
Yep.
ballads, the Warrant ballads, Skid Row's I Remember You. It never quite got to that level, but it was just as damn good as all of them. So surprising that it didn't, but you couldn't have picked a better ballad. So what I'm going to do is follow it up half and half.
Okay.
Gonna see your ballad and raise you a quarter of a ballad, but then I'm gonna bring it back into the rock again.
Okay.
And that all happens in one song. And normally this one might not have made the mix where we were going on side one and side two, but when we want to bring people back for kind of the closing of this tape, I think because if you go right from the only ballad and you kind of jerk people back with something quick or heavy or fast, it might be jarring on this mixtape. So we're going to ease back into it. And I'm going to go with 1987. The album is Pride, and I'm going to go with White Lion's Wait.
Okay. Yes.
So you got a little bit of that ballad in the opening, and then you kind of get into another rock song. So we're back. We're up and moving again. You got the windows down. This is a kind of song you want to cruise with the top down to. It's a definite driving song, but it's got that beautiful opening. So coming out of Alone Again, it really works. At least in this mixtape that we're making tonight, I feel it works.
I totally agree. I mean, I like White Lion. I like that song. I think we would have a different issue if we said, hey, let's put When the Children Cry on here, right? But I mean, this song this song fits, and I agree 100% with you. It's not really, much like the Doc and Alone Again is a ballad, but not in the sense of like we're saying, like the Warrant ballads or things like that. And I think a song like Wait kind of is a little bit more up tempo. It's not necessarily a ballad, but it's kind of that pseudo, it's for lack of a better word, it's a very safe song that you can kind of in general, like, hey, it's hard rock, but it's kind of soft, but these guys are still killer. Like the musicianship of that band was really good too. So yeah, I think that's a great choice following up right after Doc.
And I'm afraid if I say the word, people are going to think there's like a drinking game going on, but Vito Bratta, when you talk about guitarists of that era, what's one word you would describe him as? And I'm not just saying it to get you to plug the name of the book again, but really.
He is definitely overlooked and underrated more than you could say. Like I really think the band White Lion, even though that was really a popular record. I mean, those songs like Wait and When the Children Cry obviously were smashes. But Vito Bratta was on another planet, his guitar playing, and it's a shame. Like he never got. I mean, there's so many guitarists that never get their due, right?
Right.
And here we are talking about White Lion, and White Lion was a great band. I had heard one time years ago they kind of got compared to Triumph, though I never really heard it. Maybe later years of Triumph, but yeah, you could kind of hear a little bit of that in some of their songs, but I think they were definitely more melodic than Triumph was.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So coming out of that, track 8.
So track 8, and I could go one of two ways. I could go definitely, I think we've kind of killed the ballad thing now. We're kind of raising the bar. Like we've kind of sloped it down. Now we're kind of coming up. So I need to kind of find a song in here that's going to back up White Lion's Wait. And I think I got the song here. I'm going to go with the band Cheap Trick and the song is Tonight It's You.
Nice.
And I think when we're segueing back into this, that's a song that I think it's very much like the song Wait. I mean, it's a rock song. It's kind of a hard rock song. Their Cheap Trick has always been kind of all over the place musically, but I think you can fit them in as a hard rock band. And this is one of their strongest songs. And I think, going into the 80s, especially when they go to like the next album and where it's going to be, where they kind of continue on that, or not the next album after that. But as far as this mixtape goes, I think we've really started to build back up how we're going to finish this side. And I think Cheap Trick follows up the White Lion, which follows up the Dokken very nicely in this tape.
I had Cheap Trick on my list, Jim, although I had chosen from 82's One on One. I went with She's Tight because in my
Okay.
mind, that riff is iconic. Steel Panther covered it.
Mhm.
Obviously, Talk Dirty to Me in one way, shape, or form ripped the riff off. Maybe.
Yes, yes.
I mean, like when I first heard Talk Dirty to Me, I'm like, wow, they're doing Cheap Trick, and then
yeah.
it was a totally different song, and I like them
Yep.
both, but it was really close, like one of those ones
Yes.
that really makes you raise your eyebrow.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I love the pick for Tonight It's You, and it's damn near impossible to pick because this is now my last song, but we've upped the energy again, and we've upped kind of the power coming out of Dokken into White Lion and now Cheap Trick. One thing our list is missing, though, I feel like we need to bring in some female power to this list, and I want to do that for my last track. I
Okay.
really feel like we need that touch on this mix. And I'm going to go to 1988's Lita, and I'm going to
Okay.
go with Lita Ford, Kiss Me Deadly. Massive
Okay.
hit. Obviously, I could have went with Close Your Eyes Forever, which was with Ozzy Osbourne, but that's a real downer, and I'm not feeling that coming out of Cheap Trick. But Kiss Me Deadly is one where Dokken was, you said, one for the ladies. Wait was definitely a pop song. I remember hearing it on Z100.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight It's You, Cheap Trick, while they are hard rock, they've always had that pop element to them.
Right.
And I feel like Kiss Me Deadly is a little bit more leaning pop, but man, that album introduced me to some female rock singers because at that point, MTV was pretty much clouded with all men rock bands. So her cutting through and Joan Jett's I Hate Myself for Loving You cutting through, they were the kind of the only shining lights on MTV at that time. So I feel like these songs need a spotlight in this mix. And somehow coming out of Cheap Trick, I just think Kiss Me Deadly for track 9 works pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit it. I'm not the biggest fan of this song, but I do respect the place that we have it on this mixtape. And also, remember, by the time we got to the Dokken, we are already pulled into the Burger King, and we're hanging out. And so now these songs are all kind of playing, and they're kind of the safe bet here where we're hanging out, like before we go back and terrorize the town later on, right? So it's a good song. I think it fits. It kind of goes right in, after the Cheap Trick and everything else that we've done so far. So solid number 9 there, which I guess brings us to the last track on this mixtape.
Yes.
Side 2. And I got stuff on my list where it's like, can't go there. I'm thinking we have to start kicking the door down, one last song, and just kick everything down. We're going to terrorize again because the tape's going to flip over. We're going to go right back to the side 1 and play the stuff again, unless there's another mixtape that's out there that we just insert, right? We may only have one mixtape. So I am going to go with Twisted Sister to close out this mixtape. And the song is Shoot 'Em Down.
Ooh.
This is like one of those ones I just was looking at this song and saying, you know what? This is a good throwdown song that if I'm putting a mixtape together and I want to close it out, I've kind of played some songs that are kind of nice and then I want to get right back into the roar, I want to get back into that insanity that was Twisted Sister and how this song is just in your face and it's got a lot of attitude. We had a lot of swagger at the beginning of this. So one more song that kind of brings that swagger back before it clicks over and goes back to side one. So Twisted Sister to close side two with Shoot 'Em Down.
Man, I love it. I did have Twisted Sister on my list as well, but I had from 84's Stay Hungry, I Wanna Rock.
Yep.
That one for me was just one of those songs as a kid that I absolutely adored. And growing up, it always stayed with me. It was cool in college. Dee Snider is one of a kind, an absolute legend. And this song, come on. I mean, even SpongeBob redid it as the Gooby Goober rock song. Like, I mean, come on. Yes. How could you not love it? Twisted Sister is such an iconic band. Great way to close it. Twisted Sister, I feel like, stays in that little bit of a mainstreamy kind of end we had there. And we really covered an amazing spectrum here. Going back through side B, we had Living Colors, Cult of Personality, The Cult, Love Removal Machine, Van Halen, and The Cradle Will Rock, Triumph, When the Lights Go Down, Rat, Way Cool Jr., Dokken, Alone Again, White Lions, Wait, Cheap Trick, Tonight It's You, Lita Ford, Kiss Me Deadly, and Twisted Sister, Shoot 'Em Down. Visit myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed on both sides of this mix through the playlist we've embedded on the episode page. Jim, now before we eject this amazing 80s hard rock mixtape, which I will say, we don't see each other's songs before we record. We put together what I think is a top-notch mixtape, and the beauty of this is there's always room for a volume 2.
There is. And you know what? It's funny because I'm looking at my list and I've crossed out all the ones that we've either mentioned or, bands that were taken away. I mean, I'm still sitting on 7 songs. So it's like, wow, I wish I would have had space to put those 7 songs on somewhere, anywhere. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's probably plenty of room to get a second tape together and then roll out even the rest of these songs. So, but yeah, definitely happy with the choices that we put on here. A lot of fun putting these things together. It brings back a lot of memories of doing it back in the day. It's too simple to do it now. Well, I don't know. I guess if you counted Spotify playlists and stuff like that, where you can make your own stuff, I guess that kind of works out too. So
yeah, it does. But you don't get that feeling of accomplishment when you drag the songs. I still curate my playlists. They're not meant to be played on random. They're meant to be played in order from start to finish.
Start to finish. Yep.
But I just feel like the feeling of accomplishment when you finish dragging your 20 songs over just isn't the same.
I agree.
Well, before we eject our final mixtape, Jim, why don't you tell people once again where they can pick up a copy of the Underrated Rock Book 2 as well as Part 1 while they're at it?
All right. Absolutely. So Underrated Rock Book and Underrated Rock Book 2, you can go to my website, www.underratedrockbook.com. We are available on Amazon in paperback, also in Kindle, and we have other places you can go and get the electronic copy of it. Barnes & Noble's one of those places, Smashwords, but you can go to underratedrockbook.com or do a search on Underrated Rock Book, and you will find all things as far as where you can go and purchase it. You can also find me on Facebook, Underrated Rock Book, and also on Twitter at the letter U Rock Book. And you can always send me a message at contact@underratedrockbook.com. Would love to hear from people. And this has been fun, Brian. I've had a great time sitting there kicking out all the songs, and just wish I had a tape deck so I could do it the old school way.
Amen to that, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute blast, and I look forward to having you back for a future collaboration.
Well, sounds good. I'll keep these other songs in reserve and we can do it another day. So definitely appreciate the time, and always appreciate your support as well. Definitely we'll be talking soon.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Remember, folks, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to hear the music we discussed in tonight's episode and to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. If you want to support the show, please consider becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. That's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.